You actually live in this cave like some kind of animal? Honey, this is not a home. It is a liability we are here to correct. That fuchsia suit caught the Pacific morning light like a knife wound, sharp against the red sandstone, and the only thing sharper was the smile on the woman wearing it, like she was here to serve an eviction notice at a funeral. And honestly, that's exactly what it felt like. Down below, waves kept up their steady, ancient drumbeat against the cliff, and those three cars parked on the old access road. They might as well have been the cavalry, except everyone knew you only brought cavalry when you expected a fight. I watched the whole circus from my little alcove, 120 feet up in the shadow of this old Cold War cave, coffee cold in my hand, heart beating steady like I was about to run a drill. Behind me, a fireproof safe sat quietly with the one document that would burn their entire scheme to the ground if I had to, because, people like that, they always think they've picked the right target. 72 hours earlier, I was just another guy living on the edge of the continent, letting the salt wind fill up this carved-out home, counting whale spouts through the morning mist, and pretending like the world was simpler than it actually is. Let me back up a second. Most folks wouldn't even call this a house. Cut straight into rock older than human memory, one wall covered in geological survey maps. My own handwriting scrawled with dates, erosion zones, little notes that would make a government auditor twitch. The only thing that looked like a decoration was a USGS certificate in a cheap frame, half-shadowed by the morning sun. I moved through the place on a limp I'd picked up years ago, checking the seismograph, the tide gauge, the old barometer, habits from a lifetime of listening to the earth, habits that never left, even when everything else did. On the kitchen table, a photo of Mara Gold, my wife, auburn hair, laughing like she had a secret nobody else would ever get. Her whale-watching journal sat beside it. Last entry dated 2 years back, a medical bracelet marking her spot. I still row in that thing, mostly tide patterns and whale sightings now, just keeping up the ritual, because the ocean never asks anything but for you to pay attention. This place had a history, 40 years as a coastal monitoring station, radar arrays long gone, but the bones of it carved right into the cliff. Emergency stairs to the cove, where supply boats once dropped off canned food and spare parts. Now nothing but rock and salt and wind. Most people saw a ruin, liability, hazard, you name it. But when it hit the federal auction, buried under 100 other decommissioned sites, I saw a chance. $18,000. No neighbors, no cell service, electricity if you could make it yourself. I could still hear Marigold's voice telling me that was our cliff. She never saw it finished. The cancer got her 3 months before the auction closed. But I moved in anyway, stuck her tide gauge in the cove like she would have wanted, and started recording, just the two of us and the sea. If you've ever lost someone, you know how it is. You find little ways to keep talking. Every day, I'd check the levels, jot down notes in her handwriting, watch the whales move north like clockwork, and tell myself I was building something out of all that empty. I hadn't thought about the federal survey in years, didn't have a reason to, until dust kicked up on the private access road, and 3 vehicles started winding down where nobody had any business going. First up, a Mercedes wagon with a vanity plate that screamed too much money, not enough sense. Next, a pickup with compliance stickers slapped on the doors, like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Last, an official county inspector truck. When they all parked, the fuchsia-suited queen bee stepped out like she owned the world, silver hair perfect, eyes hard behind those reading glasses on a gold chain. Clipboard guy started taking photos of my rocks like it was a crime scene, and the so-called county inspector just started measuring things and shaking his head like he'd just found a body. I watched, then limped down the stone steps, coffee forgotten, sun on my back, and that ocean just roaring away behind me. She introduced herself, Deline Vance Hartley, president of the Crimson Ridge Estates Homeowners Association, 4 miles away, mind you, holding a folder fat with violation notices. Structures out of compliance, unapproved modifications, geological hazards, insurance liability, every scare word you could imagine, delivered with the satisfaction of someone who rehearsed it all in her bathroom mirror. Her brother-in-law, the county inspector, chimed in with structural deficiencies and visible erosion, reading from his clipboard without ever meeting my eyes. You ever meet someone who thinks the rules just bend for them? That's the line. She started in on the cliff, being a danger to the community, as if she'd ever walked this path in a storm. The kicker, though, was her plan for my cove: turn it into a community amenity, walking path, observation deck, the whole deal, never mind that it's a protected marine sanctuary. I reminded her, gently, that the California Coastal Commission and NOA would like a word, seeing as harbor seals breed there every spring and federal law says you can't even sneeze in the wrong direction. They weren't expecting me to know that. They also weren't expecting me to stay calm when they handed me 30 days' worth of threats, legalese dressed up as procedures, and warnings that things could get unpleasant. Deline strutted off, heels clicking, her little band scurrying behind, and I just stood there with a folder full of fines I had no intention of paying. If you've been following this and thinking, wow, that could be me, drop your country in the comments, because I promise you, this isn't just a coastal thing. Day after day, new fines arrived. Property markers, vegetation, modifications to landforms. As if my house, carved in a stone before the HOA even existed, was somehow an eyesore. Noise violations for a generator that runs during the day, fire safety on bare rock for $1,200 in a week, not to mention the legal threats. Still, I didn't pay, didn't flinch. Instead, I hit the county records office and pulled every document I could find. My property? Purchased outright, clean title, nowhere near their jurisdiction. The HOA's boundary? For miles east, clear as daylight. But an amendment from 2021 claimed to expand their reach. 3 signatures, 2 from people who'd moved away or died before the document was even dated. A total forgery, right there in black and white. Fraud on top of trespass, on top of intimidation, on top of the dumbest development scheme I've ever seen. The thing about old surveyors, we never forget how to dig for truth. My kitchen table became ground zero. Boundary maps, plat surveys, Coastal Commission rulings, and my own copy of the 2009 USGS report, stamped and signed. They hadn't just forged signatures, they'd faked geological assessments, marine impact reports, claimed the cove had no wildlife value, even though 40-plus harbor seals have been breeding here for years, documented by both NOA and my late wife's notes. This wasn't just HOA overreach. This was conspiracy, wire fraud, and federal crimes stacked up higher than a bluff. I drove straight to the sheriff's office, folder in hand, laid it out for Deputy Boone, one of those guys who's seen every feud, every trespass, every stupid neighbor war. At first, he figured I was just another landowner with a chip on my shoulder. Then he started reading death certificates, forged amendments, GPS-tagged photos, official records that didn't match up. When he realized the county inspector was Deline's brother-in-law, his whole face changed. That's a conflict of interest, he said. That's the beginning, I told him. Boone couldn't arrest someone for sending me fines, but fraud, forgery, falsifying reports? That's different. I handed him the Geological survey. My survey for the feds, proving the cliff was stable, the marine sanctuary untouchable. You worked for USGS? He asked, and for the first time I saw him realize I wasn't just some hermit living in a cave. I was the only reason this whole stretch of coast hadn't been bulldozed years ago. If you were in my shoes, finding out someone forged documents to steal your home and wipe out a sanctuary, what would you do? Fight alone? Call the law? Or burn their whole operation to the ground with paperwork? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. Next morning, before dawn, a construction crew rolled down the access road. Hartley Development Group logos on the side, hauling plywood and padlocks. Their foreman waved an emergency safety order signed by the inspector. On HOA letterhead, not county, not legal, just more fake paper. I laid it out for them. Coastal Commission, Federal Sanctuary, Marine Mammal Protection Act. Every nail they drove would buy them a federal indictment. Within 2 minutes, they were back in their truck, leaving tire marks and a paper trail behind. I called Lana Strand at USGS. Old friend, old ally, the one who'd co-authored the survey back in 2009. Somebody's trying to condemn my place with fake data, I told her. By noon the next day, I was in her office, documents spread across the table. She'd already uncovered even more. The Hartley Development Group had filed resort development permits 6 months before I got my first violation notice. Private marina, helipad, the whole shebang, right through my property. The marine impact assessment was an outright lie. The real data, 15 years of seal counts, all documented, including Marigold's citizen science logs, proved my cove was irreplaceable habitat. That's when it hit me. She'd protected this place without ever telling me. Even gone, she was still fighting for it. Lana didn't waste time. Federal Compliance Review. Coastal Commission notified. NOA sent out a field team. Suddenly, the county was frozen in place, every permit, every condemnation, locked up tight. And then came the twist I didn't see coming. Ulli Dufra, the HOA treasurer, called me in a whisper, scared and angry, wanted to meet in person. Turns out she'd signed the boundary amendment, thinking it was routine paperwork. Never knowing DeLine had forged her own father's signature months after his death, never realizing that $300,000 had been embezzled, laundered through shell companies for the resort payoff. She brought evidence, financial records, fake invoices, everything. She wanted to make it right. She wanted to testify. Within 3 days, the FBI was in town. Special Agent Thornwood, sharper than a tack, mapped out the whole network. Forged amendments, fake geological reports, wire fraud, embezzlement, a development scheme tied to every bad act in the book. When she asked me why I'd waited, I told her the truth. I needed them to reveal just how far they'd go. You were building a case, she said. No, I answered. I was documenting evidence. There's a difference. She smiled just a little. You did it well. The county board meeting was pure theater, DeLine dressed to kill, thinking she'd already won. She started to roll out her condemnation orders when I walked to the front, folder in hand, and laid out every lie. The USGS report, the NOA data, the forged amendments signed by a dead man, the confession from Ulli, the missing money, the paper trail that led straight to her front door. Ulli stood up, voice shaking but steady, and told them what really happened. The room erupted, board members in shock, residents demanding answers, DeLine backing toward the exit, white with rage. Agent Thornwood stepped forward, badge out. This is a federal investigation. You're under arrest. And just like that, the house of cards came crashing down, DeLine, her husband, the inspector, every conspirator facing real prison time. The HOA was dissolved, the property protected, the cove declared a permanent sanctuary in Marigold's name. And for the first time in 3 years, standing on that cliff as the sun set and the seals barked below, I smiled. The ocean doesn't care about your bylaws. It just keeps moving, outlasting every scheme, every crook, every would-be emperor in a fuchsia suit. If this story meant something to you, drop a heart in the comments. If you've ever fought your own battle against bullies in suits, share your story, because you're not alone. None of us are. And remember, sometimes the quiet ones, the stubborn ones, the ones who listen to stone and sea, they're the ones who keep the world honest, one cliff at a time.